for so many strong AP junglers, which is something along the lines that Tomio would like to play. I know that the Sejuani was his first game on the LCS stage, which was more aligned with what he was playing during his time on either C9 Challengers or Disguise last summer. But his past, and if you got a chance to see his introduction video on a part of Shopify Rebellion, it was things like the Nidalee, right? But we're blitzed through the draft phase, and they did not respect the Scorpion once again, so Immortals are gonna say, well, Castle, how's the second game of Skarner for you?
And this is one of the things where you're like, okay, Rumble can get a CS lead for Skarner, but then the other team has guaranteed Nautilus and Skarner engages. You have a point and click, and you have crazy, crazy follow-up, and the possibility of just moving the opponents around. So we're getting a little bit of a salty run back. Honestly, I'm kind of, even though the first game did feel so much towards Immortals, you can tell what Shopify are thinking. They're like, you know what? That was our blunder in not expecting and not tracking the reset on Grub Timer.
Sure.
If we correct that, then we'll go down a very different branch in the timeline, and we'll be able to use our lane power that we get out of these matchups to snowball the game. That's what they're thinking. And with best of threes, we now actually give the teams the power to do salty runbacks. So this is the potential of having best of threes now. If you are salty about the first game and about one of these early decisions that you made that you feel was the main reason for a big branch in the timeline and the way that it snowballed out of control and went that way, then you actually have the power to say, no, we're gonna run it again.
Yeah. And so far, the only changes in the draft phase that has come from the second round of bans.
Hey! COG win!
Oh man, respect to that guy.
I didn't even know I was a father.
Happy Father's Day to everyone out there.
Now I'm gonna get like DMs and text messages and like, did you know that you also have a child? You know, on this continent, that continent.
I hope that's not what actually happens. Well, Shopify took away the Senna alongside the Zeyzal, whereas Immortals took two more jungle options, and that's Sejuani and Maokai. So the jungle pool is getting slimmed down even more so. Now, Shopify, they are saving the jungle pick for Tomio to the very last round. Okay, now I'm excited, because now this opens up the world of possibilities of what you could pick for Tomio in the second game.
Meanwhile, the Bvoy not going to get locked in quite yet, though still a possibility. I mean, that would be a lot of point and click engage. And so they definitely would have the lockdown, but they are going to yoink away the Varus this time around. I mean, we mentioned last time too, this is Bvoy's most played in spring.
Yep.
They heavily leaned on this champion. So it seems like Immortals are giving a little shout out here. Like maybe you lean a little bit too much on this champion and they just want to try their hands at it. Meanwhile, what is actually going to happen here? Because Rek'Sai did get nerfed on this patch. We are on live patch, so this is the nerfed version of Rek'Sai. It's still a very good champion, but does not scale super well. So Immortals this time around, they don't have as good scaling. We'll see about how they actually operate with it. Okay. Tomio got his Nidalee!
All right. I'm also hyped that Tomio is getting a carry jungler. I will say, in terms of setup, there's not much. The only CC that you really have
very, very little.
It's through bot lane. You're hoping that Zeyzal will land the Q flash into the crash down that sets up the spear. Everything else, it's either a slow from Kalista, it's a slow from Rumble's E or the Equalizer. But the benefit of having Nidalee in this draft is the assumption that every single lane on Shopify will be pushing, and this allows Tomio to play the way he wants to play, which is getting in the face of Armao, contesting him on every camp, trying to skirmish and duel with the mid and late game. Their whole tactic is blitz Immortals through the early game before the rest of Immortals can come online.
The spear. I heard that one. Split the leaves of that brush.
You can see the 5 members of Shopify Rebellion taking sure you support the bottom jungle quadrant. As Olleh barely touches the spear.
The sounds of spears whiffing is actually quite calming. I kind of like it.
As a Nidalee main, it's tempting. And unfortunately, I hear it at least 50% of the time.
The self-report.
Hey, you know what? My solo queue win rate on her right now is 70%, so we take that dub. Thank you, Freak, for the buffs. Shopify do not end up finding any kills or summoner spells in the invade, but they did lay down some aggressive vision in that bottom red quadrant. Armao starting on the top side of the map. We'll see if he continues to make a full clear route or if he will try and burn any summoner spells. Flash on Burrow, still very effective tool to trying to make an impact early.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very powerful. A little bit of damage taken off it, but the knockup and now it being AoE, definitely possibilities of making some nice early game moves. Especially with this bottom lane. This bottom lane is a very interesting problem this game, because you know the rumble into Skarner again is going to be a little rough for the Skarner early. You get burns, you get roasted a lot, you get pushed in. You know, Comet is a pain, the Flamethrower is a pain, but you also really care about the bottom lane and the early game help here with Olleh and Zeyzal being very aggressive supports. So both junglers will have their eyes towards the bottom side of the map, which is good news for FakeGod. He gets to just have free time up there on Rumble to try and punish.
All
and
right.
it is going to be an invade for Tomio.
Yep.
Here we go.
The plan already, Insanity and the bottom side of the map getting the push for Tomio so he can freely invade and contest these Raptor camps. Looks like Tomio is able to steal them away from Armao and pushing him out. And this is Tomio's dream. Getting in the face of his enemy.
And the crowd goes wild!
He gets to do what he loves to do best. And now he's even taking the red buff on top of it. Armao has nowhere else to go.
We got Nidalee spears and Kalista spears stacking up. Armao, though, sneaks around to pull his Krugs away from that Nidalee spear so they don't get tagged. So at least he can salvage some Krug gold for himself. Meanwhile, Shopify's bottom lane with the early priority there and moving in, helping support, everybody helping support Tomio up on stage here. Crowd as well as teammates. As we get our all-new Kia multi-lane camera taking view here, taking stock of who is pushing who. And honestly, Castle's not even getting pushed around too much this game. Not very dangerous because he's got his jungler in Fog of War. This is the thing where Skarner got pushed off red, but then FakeGod knows, all right, well, there's going to be an angry Rek'Sai, excuse me. Angry Rek'Sai up on my side of the map now because the Rek'Sai just got pushed out of bottom half, so FakeGod going to say, okay, fine, now's your time to farm Skarner.
Yeah.
You can push on back, hand me this big wave.
It didn't seem like they had perfect vision on where Armao dipped after he got pushed out. So, as you called it, FakeGod just playing with respect, making sure that he doesn't get jumped on like he did in the first game. Tomio pathing towards the top side of the map as Armao collects his second rotation of this Grom. It's a big wave that is crashing into FakeGod's tower, but it doesn't look like that they're going to be threatening. Castle will get the crash and get his first chance at a reset. So far, the game plan has been pretty tame. The only action that we got was Tomio invading that bot side of the map, but nothing has really resulted much from it. It's just been 2-3 camps ahead for Tomio. What I want to see how this translates is if Shopify can continue taking these pushing lanes and then get that objective priority.
Yeah, biggest thing here is that now we are approaching again the timer for a reset towards Grubs if you want to go for Grubs. And Shopify are the ones with the pushing matchup this time around with their Kalista Rell. So Kalista Rell gets the wave in on top side. Now they go for their reset, and they're the ones that are going to do the Grub swap leading up to 6 minutes. 5:30 here, you see them going right back, and FakeGod is going to head down to the bottom side of the map. So Tomio is here first, and Shopify bottom lane will be there second. Immortals, I don't think will be too sad about it, though. Their bottom lane pushes right back out, and then they can just do the trade, go for Dragon, or even head up and actually fight this, because Varus and Nautilus are making it look like they actually want to fight it. Skarner is wrapping around behind the Grubs right now and might get a chunk on the Rell. See, Skarner actually just passes through. Castle doing a little cruising here, yeah, and they're going to start the Grubs up themselves.
Tomio face checks into the Impale, gets pulled right back by the Dredge line, punished by Immortals.
Castle Skarner cruised right through the back wall of Grubs, and they have deleted the Shopify smite.
Oh, but a flash from Zeyzal. They want to punish Olleh, and not a chance for him to flash away. Shopify get one back.
Counter deleted. Olleh also goes down there. FakeGod unleashes the Rumble ultimate, so both top laners instrumental in getting those kills, but Shopify, you gotta respect the Shopify Kalista. So as Bvoy is heading down, they knew it was coming. They try to back off, and it is just going to be the 2-for-1 split on the early Grubs. So nobody's going to get the full 6. Nobody's going to get the double Void Might spawn. However, it is still on the table and pretty easy for either side to go for the 4, so you can get the single one here.
I'm trying to remember if prior series the other LCS teams were prioritizing Dragon as much, but Immortals and Shopify have definitely taken their time with the Dragon so far, just based off of game 1 and how the second game has progressed. We'll take a look back at that earlier fight around the pit.
Yeah, so he just left the bush as Rell walked in there, and then just didn't expect it. I mean, the Skarner here. It's hard to keep track because he can cruise through walls, but they should have been a little bit more suspicious.
Yeah.
You got to be a little bit more. Some people use the term respectful, but I use the term fearful whenever you give over a Skarner like that.
Yeah.
Just because it's so devastating early on. In the end, though, they chased them off and they still got one Void Grub back for themselves. They still got one extra kill there with the Rumble ultimate. So. Not too bad.
Yeah. And thankfully for Shopify, at least their bot lane is still doing pretty well. I think the focus of this composition still comes down to how well the Kalista is able to get off the ground, and Sanity also farming up decently against Mass Hwei. But for Immortals, the fact that Tactical got the first blood and is already accelerated does make Shopify's lives a little bit more difficult as we approach that mid game.
That was a pretty good recipe for game number 1. Tactical getting an early kill. And he is going to lethality this time around, so it's not going to be, as devastating as like the Zeri, knowing that the Zeri is just going to be out of control later when you don't have any lockdown for her, and it's just going to, get out of control later. But Shopify will eventually pick up their Dragon on the bottom side of the map since they rotated Bvoy and Zeyzal back down there. The Kalista Rell, where they go, so too goes the Prio for them, and Tomio will get right back on track. Pick up Dragon number 1 here for Shopify.
Shopify getting their first neutral objective of the game, or at least fully complete, as they were able to bully away Immortals from the other Void Grubs. And Tomio, bounce back, buddy. And the first death was unfortunate, but it's okay. Tomio's going to still keep those spirits as nice. Fate's call from Bvoy. It is a trade, as Immortals did invest that roam towards the bottom side of the map.
Yep, Varus ultimate for Kalista ultimates. Not too shabby, not too much extra damage given, though a little bit. As well as the cleanse cooldown here, so Scuttle Crab picked up in time for Tomio as they vacate the bottom lane and should continue on with the power clear here. Wolves into Raptors for Tomio. And another sort of calm early game. This time around too, with the swapping. I mean, the Skarner's farming out quite nicely here, so Immortals feel pretty good about it, though the Mountain Dragon is a pretty decent bonus.
Yeah. I will say FakeGod is definitely feeling better about this game. He's not getting dove multiple times in the first 10 minutes of the game. He actually gets a chance to farm up decently and play a majority of his laning phase safely, as Bvoy and Zeyzal are going to swap back over to the top side of the map. The nice thing about having something like a Nidalee, as they are already here for the grubs, even if you're not able to land these spears, the utility you get from buffing up your marksman with the extra attack speed ratio does make them more lethal in a short skirmish. We'll see how well Shopify can play around, but Immortals have answered back, and because they're just a tad bit stronger, Shopify are paying their respects.
Yeah, Insanity's bottom lane, and even though he has teleport, I would just say, you know what, take your payment in plates.
Yeah.
Get your turret plate money, keep pushing on bottom side. It is a bit annoying that Immortals are going to have the Void Might spawn for later, but it's honestly not the end of the world. I mean, this game is going to be won around team fights.
Sure.
So, honestly, just try and get a little bit of money right now. He actually didn't get up to the turret because teleport easily used there by Castle. So while the Corki does push out the lane, Insanity actually didn't cash in very big on that investment from Immortals.
Still been a relatively quiet game for the first 12 minutes here. Still a couple more minutes before those turret plates fall off. And Immortals and Shopify have been constantly answering each other's swaps towards the top side of the map, either sending their bot lane or their mid lane over, and making sure that neither team is able to successfully get first brick just yet.
Meanwhile, some of the first item completions coming in that do matter a lot. Tactical, namely, getting his opportunity. The Varus poke can go crazy now, and they situate him in mid lane immediately. And then a Trinity Force Corki moved up there. You really should not underestimate the all-in power there from the Corkster after the changes. Mask on top side is able to get control of the wave though, so pushes wave out, and then is able to roam into the river to join with the rest of the team. And link right back up for them. Doesn't seem like we're gonna have you know, the early explosiveness this time around. Skarner though is heading over towards mid lane to see what they can fish around for. They just pop the extra vision and then rotate on back.
Insanity does have Zeyzal for backup. The Crushing Maw did interrupt Insanity mid-Valkyrie, but Olleh wasn't in range to really follow up, so no real danger, no need to flash. Tomio's on the top side of the map to hover as well.
Yeah, I really like the kind of defensive play there from Immortals to hover around Mask or Olleh, keeping the vision. This is the all-in.
And Mask might be in trouble here. FakeGod cuts him off from Olleh. And nice pickup here for Shopify Rebellion.
Yeah, that anytime you look at the scoreboard and you see these desyncs in items where it was a lot of mana items and components there, it was just like the lost chapter in the tier for Mask at the time, Corki on Trinity Force, you know, Insanity's like, I really want to all in him. I gotta all in him. I want to all in him. So they're waiting for the opportunity to all in, and that's why they go for the teleport. FakeGod comes in, he says, fine, we can go for it. Then when he dies, Mask is able to complete the Seraphs and does get it actually in inventory afterwards, but they get their play off, they get their teleport, they get their 1 kill. Bottom side is pushed in though, and pretty low, honestly. Castle was able to chunk that thing down with the help of the minions.
Yeah, big crash too on the minion wave. Insanity going over to pick it up, trying to see if he can stall the recall and the reset. Big meaning though for Immortals. Oh, okay. Maybe a dive here from Zeyzal and Bvoy. They're in range. The crash down. Now Bvoy was forced to burn Flash and Cleanse after a 3-man dive attempt from Immortals earlier in the mid lane. So he has to be a little careful if he were to overextend for the play, which I think is why Shopify don't need to overcommit. The Dragon just spawned. They're just going to use the priority both from mid and the bottom lane waves to get that Dragon.
Yeah. It was definitely a good mid lane play there, some critical summoner spells. Seems like it's still going to be off of bottom lane push, a pretty easy Dragon number 2 here for Shopify. They show a little strength, you know, they just poke around. Nobody's going to go for the dive though, even if Skarner's kind of low because the rest of the team rotates over, and Shopify continues stacking their dragons. They're happy to just collect those and keep playing towards their Dragon at Soul win at Con here.
Sandy will clean out this tier 1 on the bottom side of the map. Looks like Mask was able to take the tier 1 on the top side. And now Shopify, I want to see what happens now that a majority of their team should be on first items.
And I think they are so happy to see a Hex Soul rolled for them, having Nidalee and Corki here. Really, really some of the best champions that benefit from that particular Dragon Soul. Meanwhile, Zane is going to walk away. But rolling that Hex Soul after the early stacking here and having these particular ways of poking, even Kalista, you know, Lethality Kalista likes to throw out the Q-Max, you know, a little bit of poke there. The slows from the Hex Soul will be so crazy good for this squad. If Shopify can keep it together and keep on stacking, they very well could push us to that game number 3. So they've got their sights set on it. Got a ways to go, of course. You're only at number 2 here, but keep focusing on pressing your vision down there and setting up well.
There's a lot of burst damage and a lot of poke options, as you already highlighted for Shopify Rebellion. And it would just be up to Insanity and FakeGod to kind of do the finishing jobs of making sure they are executed after a lot of the poke has been ramped up. If Bvoy can safely get into these fights once his summoner spells are both up and ready, then he can unleash some major damage. There's no dragon up for the next 3 minutes, but they want to contest control on this bottom jungle quadrant, but Immortals not going to get too far up into the base of Shopify Rebellion.
And it's really dangerous because the first step in getting your Nautilus Skarner their first picks is getting that early vision into enemy jungle. Kind of, we just saw the first step where you go slightly in. It's like the shallow vision that they place, and then that shallow vision is what you're able to use to move in more effectively and get the deeper wards up by the little jungle pathways where people are rotating through. And then as they're leading up to those dragons, that's when Immortals try and strike. They try and make use of this kind of fearsome CC combination that they have drafted themselves once again. Skarner and Nautilus can just be so devastating. You get like 0 time to move, especially if Tactical is there following it up with a Varus ultimate. So Immortals here, while they do see the dragons on the horizon, I don't think they're particularly panicked or worried just yet.
The fact that Shopify were able to regain that vision control back in that bottom jungle quadrant is so important because we are now just 2 minutes away from dragons, so those next 3-4 minion waves are going to be so important on how well both Shopify and Immortals are playing off of them. That means who is getting the first touch on those minions to see that who gets the first move into the jungle to continue establishing that vision line. Because if Shopify is able to clean this third dragon, then they get on soul point, and then 5 minutes after, Immortals are forced to fight even if they didn't want to.
Well, let's see if they can do it. Control wards purchased, control wards moved up. They even got the extra vision from Scuttle Crab, so Shopify doing a good job in retake. And retaking vision is one of the things that we have really looked heavily at in, you know, the last, I would say even in spring, it was a kind of big issue for some of the teams. And trying to retake these quadrants of the jungle that you previously had lost control of. But Immortals will sweep right back in. When you get that mid lane tower down, it is just so easy to immediately rotate over and delete the control wards. Now they're in the spot we are talking about where they're lying in wait, looking for their pick here onto any Shopify member that pokes their head out.
They get vision on this blue buff. I'm not sure. I don't think Tomio got a chance to get the blue buff. It looks like it was stolen away by Immortals. The flash from Olleh is a respect flash out of FakeGod. And Castle might get jumped on here. Bvoy, Tomio, locking the down, but impale from Castle. Buy some time so that Mass comes in and maybe becomes a hero. Armao will commit the Void Rush to clean out Bvoy from this fight. But the rest of Shopify now have to be on the run because Tactical is looming in the shadows and looking for the arrows to snipe them down. Zeyzal dodges out on one. The Crushing Maw doesn't do a damn thing to stop him, but Tactical will find the headshot that he needs to, and it's a trade of supports.
That was a close one there. Shopify, they're able to avoid the Varus ultimate and the Nautilus hook. But then again, the Q from Tactical is enough damage. As long as he hits that skill shot, still gets the kill, still get the dragon, still avoid the danger of the dragon stacking here. So Immortals, goal accomplished nonetheless.
And they stop the soul point from happening for Shopify. Take a look back at this fight again.
So Tactical tried to do charge into the wall there, and then as he's dying, as he's about to go down, he gets the ultimate 3-person delay off, and Armao critically able to touch the Kalista there just enough, and then pops the ultimate to finish the job. Here's where it could have gone even worse for Shopify, but nice little juke there from Zeyzal, and then he goes back in, so they avoided the initiation, but Tactical does find the later snipe on the Q to be able to answer kill for kill on supports.
The Rift Herald was forced to spawn through the top side of the map. Looks like no one from Immortals will get a chance to use the charge mechanic. Insanity will answer that top wave crashing, but the rest of Shopify have to be careful. Their main damage dealer, or one of their main damage dealers in Bvoy, no cleanse, no flash. It's super hard for him to step up, as Castle does get a chance to use the charge mechanic, gets decent damage. The dredge line barely whiffing on Tomio.
All right, but I've got a question for you now. How does Skarner even fit inside the Rift Herald? Skarner is literally as big as the Rift Herald. That Skarner should not be allowed to drive Rift Herald.
You know
I
what?
think
Kobe,
Skarner and like Mundo or something. Who else? Cho'Gath?
I don't know about the other two tanks, but
His
for
physics
Skarner,
don't work out.
that's a Flowers question. He's the Skarner expert, you know?
And even if Skarner gets inside there, are those claws really going to give you the dexterity to drive a Rift Herald?
I wonder if it's like, you know, like two controls. Like you get into the cockpit of like, what is like the Millennium Falcon or something, and you're just driving through there, but then the pincers might not be the best grippers there. Now, Shopify Rebellion gonna try to retake vision control in this river. Spiraling Despair right on top of Tomio's head. Will he go down to the Severing Bolt? It's the Void Rush for Armao that executes Tomio in the back half. FakeGod, the next one to fall, and Impale from Castle once again. He's just been too damn clean with the ultimates today, and Shopify losing 3 means that Immortals get this free Baron.
The Immortals Scrim Gods on Father's Day are delivering Shopify into the dirt here, collecting kill after kill after kill. Baron will be theirs. They're making this look so effortless too. It's been such a calm series from Immortals. I like this look for them. They're not panicking on stage at all, and it really does seem like we are gonna finally, this summer, get the look that people have been talking about for over a year for Immortals here. Let's take another look at how they started this one out. I like the poke damage, and then once you have the Hwei ultimate on there, Armao says, we for sure have this kill, because Hwei has the follow-up snipe plus the ultimate proc, and then they also, on the mid lane, got their screen grab here with Castle. Skarner being able to yoink in another one, and Nero's like, you know what, I did my job 2 games in a row. We first picked a Skarner, we got some picks, and there you go, wrap it up. Tactical here, 400 gold bounty on his head. So from the Shopify side, I'm always, trying to look for the possible comeback area, and you always start eyeballing some of these gold bounties on people's heads. It's going to be difficult to cleanse Flash Varus, and both of those are available, but got to shoot for the stars.
And Immortals' first look back into Summer Split with the Nero at the helm. Shopify, maybe one last Hail Mary. The Magnastorm into the Equalizer does decent damage, but they don't take out Tactical, who is now in safe range to fire these arrows from the backline. Zeyzal will be the first one to fall from the crushing maw. Olleh tries to get in range, but the dredge line hit a minion, unfortunately for him. Armao also here for the charge, and Shopify limp away from the fight.
Yeah. It's so difficult for them to actually carve a way out back into the game. They would have had to pull out something right there. So you're always looking at the timing windows where you can try and go for a miracle play, because you know it's going to have to be something spectacular. But if they had been able to pull something off here for Shopify, then you could turn it into a Dragon number 3. Because you want to go for those plays, like more like 30 seconds, honestly, before the Dragon. And just try it all in, around the time where your opponents are not expecting it. But you could also have some big rewards. And unfortunately for Shopify, they don't get a comeback play. And Immortals, the pain train is going to continue on right into the Shopify base. nobody going to stop here. Immortals will be able to get the inhibitor on top of it.
Another 25-minute push where Immortals are 8,000 gold ahead, now 9,000 thanks to the local gold picked up from the falling of these structures here. Shopify, knowing that they could not defend that push from happening, allows Tomio to sneak this third dragon of the game. Now remember, it's a long shot for Shopify, but maybe, just maybe, but if Immortals try to end the game right here, that soul point will not even give them a chance, but Zeyzal, thankfully for Shopify, makes it out alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really sick sneak because you get your gold bonus, objective bounty bonus gold here, plus, like you're saying, set yourself up for the dream. The dream is alive. Yep. Please, can we get the Hex Soul? That's how they try and come back. It did come at a fairly hefty cost. You know, your base is wide open. You have, you know, top side inhibitor down. But honestly, that is a very, very good sneak from Tomio.
It's going to be more difficult now, as you already called out. Shopify, with that top inhibitor being destroyed, super minions will be barreling through the top side, which creates extra pressure on Shopify to not have a chance to leave this base as often. Immortals now can focus their efforts solely through the mid lane and the bottom lane. They're already set up to do so. The vision line starting to suffocate Shopify from being able to enter into its own jungle quadrant.
Looks like they're going to rotate on over to that spear, though. Nice hefty chunk of damage onto Mask from Tomio. Despite Mask getting up to level 16 here and the Hwei just being so scary at the moment, 3-item power spike, level 16 Hwei, like that is just a massive amount of AoE.
Yeah.
That is really hard to avoid too. The later you get into this game, it's actually become quite a bit of an issue for Shopify. Again, they don't have a lot of CC on their side, so it has to be a really good engage from Zeyzal, and he's gonna have to be a really you know, prominent person here in the comeback if they are going to be able to pull it off.
Can he find that Magna Storm? Can he find the CC combo that sets the rest of Shopify's damage to lay down super easily on the follow-up? We'll have to see. Immortals taking their time once again. Nothing new from what we learned about them in Game 1, where, yes, it took them a while to close out the game, but they were meticulous about it, and they were also steady with it to make sure that nothing goes awry in the closing out of this game and what would be the series.
2.5 minutes until the dragon spawns, but Immortals are looking to do irreparable damage to Shopify's base before then.
Yeah.
If not win the game outright, destroy another inhibitor, and just completely neutralize Shopify, pin them inside their own base. So the next 2 minutes are going to be incredibly critical. Shopify trying to push out minion waves here. Even as their topside super minions get leaked into their base, that's going to cause them to have to retreat here and deal with those. Insanity is going to be the one to do it.
Castle walking forward, seeing if he can find an impale engage on any members of Shopify that step too close. The Q from Zeyzal into the engage. Gets a decent chunk on the Castle, but Zeyzal falls before the rest of Shopify can do anything. FakeGod is next. Tactical looking for the snipe. Just takes him out with a blight of arrows, and Insanity will fall next. Bvoy having to cleanse from Castle CC. But the impale is still available. Tomio found a snipe.
Was there a trap burning him and the red spider?
I have no idea.
He died all the way over there. It must have been a Nidalee trap on him or something. His tactical goes down, but it doesn't matter. Immortal.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter. Tomio found one last play. The Castle is going to flash and get the 180 spin. The impale will take Tomio and Bvoy down. Immortals with a clean 2-0 series win over Shopify Rebellion in the first week of the summer split.
IMT with a 2-0 over Shopify. And there was not really a moment in the whole series where you felt like Immortals were worried at all.
Probably the only point was in the early game, like maybe the first 10 minutes where Shopify were slightly competitive. But then once the mid game started breaking out, Castle making the plays alongside Olleh, Armao, roaming in the right times, in the right places, and just setting up Tactical for success. I mean, we talked so many times throughout the spring split and coming into the series at the top of the day that Tactical was left on his own, having to fend for himself a majority of the time. But it seems like just from the first series alone, they've cleaned up a lot of the communication issues that plagued them and are now setting up their bot laner for success. Eddie Raw is getting to live his best life on the Rift today.
I like Armao pulling out the nerfed Skarner as well. Doesn't care. It was not that substantial. Didn't hinder him at all. Really nice snipes and finishes on a lot of these critical kills. When you're talking about possible turning points in the game and possible windows, you remember back down to the bottom side of the map where they made the collapse onto Castle. And as they're chasing him back, Armao just gets the last little bit of damage onto Bvoy, and just enough to tag him so he can go for the ult and finishes off the Kalista so they can critically keep on with their smooth game plan. But that was one of the only reasons why it continued to be smooth.
Yeah.